Welcome to the Anchorage Football Officials Score Clock, Operator, and Timer training video. This is an amateur training video about 35 minutes in length that I hope will familiarize yourself with the clock as well as the rules operating when to start and stop the timer during a National Federation high school football game. The video is again about 35 minutes long. And near the end, there will be a test. So if you have your smartphone available with a countdown timer, you will use that at the end to time a live action game for several minutes just to see how well you end up and how well you match up with the clock itself. Otherwise, enjoy, and we hope that you will have a great time running the clock and keeping score for us this fall. Thank you.
We're going to work with a Nevco time clock here, which is very similar to a Daktronics in terms of the entry, but to turn the Nevco on, over on the right side is a switch, and typically a code will be requested, and that code can generally be found in this area here. And this particular clock, the profile is already set, but you may have to scroll through to find which profile you want of which activity you're going to score. So in this case, we're going to select football, and we need to tell it yes, that's what we are selecting. Then to set the time, and that's one of the first things that we will do, is set the time as we want to tell it to set, and we're going to tell it set the time, and we will enter it in this case in 12:00, and then we must tell it yes at the end. In this case, the quarter is preset for you to start at quarter 1, but anytime you want to make any kind of change with these buttons on the left side, all you have to do is enter. So if we want to go from quarter 1 to quarter 2, simply tell it quarter and then what quarter you would like. During the setup in the pregame, an important option to select in the option button here is select that the brightness be high. Don't worry about team names, those should be pre-entered for you. That's another video. Profiles, main time, auxiliary time, don't worry about. Segment timer, don't worry about. Timeout timer, don't worry about. Swap home and guess if you really want to swap the team names on the board. But more importantly, the horn setting. The horn setting should be turned off, and in many cases that option may be as simple as selecting yes, that's the option you want to work with, and then we will hit yes again, and we're going to set the volume at 0, and then if we hit set, our volume is now at 0 and the horn won't go off when the clock reaches 0. Another setting that you want to make sure is in place is the timeouts on the score clock. Again, if you tell it a timeout, you start with 3, and that was for the guest team, and in this case we'll select 3 for the home team. And as a team uses a timeout, we can select, if the guest team calls a timeout, we can select timeout guest team, and we were at 3, now we're going to go to 2. So on the scoreboard it should show that the home team has 3 remaining timeouts, and the guest team, utilizing 1, now has 2 remaining timeouts. Another feature that you may want to try and use is the ball possession. So if the guest team is in possession of the ball, we can select the guest team possession, and if the home team has possession, we would select home team. Pretty simple, but trying to remember to do that when there is a change of possession, on top of making sure you have the yards to go, the down and the ball on, and then also paying attention to the officials running the clock. You may just want to leave that particular feature off. When running the clock, it's generally easiest if there is kind of a remote switch where with a thumb control you can turn the clock on or turn the clock off. At the end of the quarter, when that clock runs down, it's very important that you switch the thumb switch back to the off position. For example, we start the clock with 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, if I don't reset to the off position, here is what often happens. We will set the time to 12 for the start of the second quarter, and I will switch to quarter 2, and then when the ball is snapped or played, oftentimes we go click, when actually what I've just done is turned the thumb control back to the off position. So really, again, at the end of the quarter, when the clock reaches 0, turn that thumb switch off. And that way, when you start the next play, start of the quarter, you'll be actually running the clock rather than turning the clock off. Another feature that is nice to utilize is the down, the yards to go, and what yard line the ball is on. Simple enough, if we hit the down, and we will tell it, in this case, first down, you know we have 10 yards to go, so we hit the yards to go button, and in this instance we'll enter 10, and then what yard line the ball is on. In this case, I'm going to say the ball is on the 35-yard line. During the progress of the game, if you want to just verify your score clock and your score, you just need to select, for example, the time button, and it will show you the time that is being displayed on the game clock itself. So in this case, we started with a first down and 10 yards to go at the 35-yard line, and at the snap we're going to start the clock. And as the play ends, while the clock may continue to run, it's probably in your best interest to develop some kind of system that works for you. And personally for me, what I find easiest is I know that I was at first down, so I'm going to go to second down, and the ball is now on, in this case, we're going to say the 40-yard line, and that leaves me with 5 yards to go. As the play continues, let's say the next play goes on, I now know I have third down, and we're going to say the ball is on the 43-yard line, and that leaves me with 2 yards to go. So if you have a routine, it's probably best so that you follow that same routine over and over. And if I select the time button, you can see that my countdown clock is still counting. Now, in the event that a first down is made, the officials will blow the whistle and stop the clock, and you want to make sure that you stop the clock when that signal is given. If the first down is made in bounds, we're going to stop the clock and move the chains. So in this particular instance, we'll be in the score clock going, okay, we now have a first down. I know I have 10 yards to go, and we're going to say the ball is at the 49-yard line. Now, make sure that you are paying attention, because if that ball was blown dead in bounds, the referee is going to wind the clock and give the wind the clock signal to indicate that you should start the clock on his signal. So sometimes you may have to move through that down, yards to go, and ball on scenario fairly quickly. If a team scores, we will be stopping the clock, and simply all we have to do is select whichever team scores. In this case, we're saying the home team scored a touchdown. So I'm going to give them 6 points. And if they make the extra point, the try, we're just going to tell it home score and add. It says 6 plus the 1 makes 7. Let's say further down the line, with the score being 7 to nothing, the home score kicks a field goal, but I accidentally go guess score plus 3. On the scoreboard, it shows 7-3, when we know that the score should actually be 10-0. If you want to change the score, you can't subtract, but what you can do is go set. We're going to tell the guest score. We're going to set the guest score, and we're going to just change it to 0. And I can either set the home score to 10, or I can just go home score +3. But in either case, if you want to change or reset the score, just tell it what you want to do. Set, home score, and whatever score you need to actually have up on the board, whether it's 14 or 0, to zero it out, use the set button. If at any point the referee instructs you to reset the clock, for example, maybe the referee would like to reset the clock to 5:15, again, following the same format, we will tell the clock to set time 05:15 and then enter yes. And now the clock should reflect 5 minutes 15 seconds. Some difficulties can be found if you are resetting with the tenths of a second on board. And just for example, but hopefully the referee will not ask you to reset to a 0.1 of a second. But in the event that the clock needs to be reset to a 0.2 second, let's say we want to reset to 3.2 seconds. We would tell it set the time to 0 minutes 0.03.2 yes. And so now we are set at 3.2 seconds. Another important factor at the end of the quarter, in addition to making sure that your thumb switch is now turned off, also quickly make sure that your ball placement is set. So if it was second down and maybe now it's third down and the ball is was on the 48, and we're going to say the ball is now being placed on the 45 with actually in this case 2 yards to go. If you have that information up on the score clock, that also will assist the officials when they flip sides with the ball, just to double check their placement.
The on-field officials have the responsibility of clearly communicating to the clock operator whether to start or stop the clock. There are many signals that the on-field officials will give, but there are 6 that will indicate to the clock operator what the status should be. The first is the ready for play signal. The ready for play signal is given by the referee, and it is a single downward motion of an arm, often referred to a chop. The ready for play just indicates that the ball is ready now for play action. The start the clock signal is a wind, a circular motion usually given with one arm, and that is the indicator to the clock operator that the clock should now start on the referee's command. Other times, as a clock operator, you might see this signal is when it is given by a wing or a sideline official, and what that intent is to be clear that the clock should continue to run, because there are times when a play may end near the sideline and it may be unclear for the clock operator whether or not the play went out of bounds. And so this is just a helpful signal from the wing officials to let the clock operator know that the clock should continue to run. The stop clock signal is pretty simple. It is 2 arms up above the head, back and forth about 3 times. And whenever this signal is given, the clock operator should make sure to stop the clock. It could be given by a variety of officials from different positions on the field, but anytime that the clock operator sees this signal with the arms waving above the head, the clock should stop. An incomplete pass signal is one
that will also stop the clock. And generally, this signal is given by an official covering a pass or an official that is closest to the pass. Not all officials will give the incomplete signal, but the remaining officials should mirror this call with a stop the clock. Mechanic wise, when one official gives an incomplete, the other four, if visible, should then give the stop clock signal, making it just that much easier for the clock operator to see that signal and be communicated to. After a score, we will stop the clock, whether a score being a touchdown or a field goal. When that play is over or dead, when the signal is given either incomplete or no good, or that the score is good, a touchdown, the clock will stop. And lastly, for a safety is also a 2-point score. And when this signal is given, again, the clock should be stopped.
Start the clock when the receiving team on a kickoff first touches the ball. What you'll see generally is the white hat or the referee give a wind when the receiving team first touches the ball on a kickoff. Start the clock on a legal snap, unless of course the clock is already running, but anytime you have a snap and the clock is stopped, the clock should again start on the snap. The referee may immediately after giving the ready for play signal give a start the clock signal, and this may occur after a first down that ends in bounds, where we will stop the clock, and then again after the ready for play, wind the clock indicating it'll start. It could occur after a penalty enforcement if the clock was only killed for the penalty that occurred during the play, or during some kind of timeout, typically for an injury that may have occurred during live ball play, and the referee, after having the player go off the field, give a wind indicating that the clock should start. Starting the clock, we're going to watch several clips here indicating when a clock operator should start the clock. First video is of a kickoff, and the clock should start when the receiver legally touches the kick. In this example, we have a kickoff situation and the ball is kicked, and the white hat, the referee, will wind when the ball is first touched, indicating the clock should start. After every legal kick, though, we will stop the clock to set the chain, so everyone here should now be stopping the clock. The clock should start on a legal snap, of course, unless it's already running. In this example, if the clock is not running, it should start when the ball is snapped. Start the clock when the referee winds, and this could be after giving a ready for play, indicating that maybe there had been a foul and the foul had been administered, and then we come back and wind the clock, or it could possibly be after an injury timeout when a player is taken from the field. But anytime you see the referee wind the clock, that's when you want to make sure that your clock is running. Sometimes we will give a wind to keep the clock running. For example, here in this play, the play will end near the sideline out of bounds, and taking in consideration the distance that the clock operator is often from the sidelines, it is difficult to see whether or not the player was down in bounds or out of bounds. So if we watch the wing official on the sideline, he is giving a wind indicating the clock should continue. Same thing here in this play. The wing official judges that the player goes down in bounds. It's very close to the sidelines, but he gives a wind here to let the clock operator know that the clock should continue to run. Stop the clock when you see any official give a stop clock, incomplete pass, or signals a score. We will stop the clock when the runner is down or the ball becomes dead after a kickoff or punt. So after any kick, whether it's a kickoff or punt, When the ball becomes dead, we stop the clock. Stop the clock for an incomplete pass, and make sure that we are giving an incomplete pass signal, because on occasion a backwards pass may look very similar to a forward pass, and a backwards pass actually remains a live ball. To indicate a backwards pass, you will see a wing official punch backwards in that direction, especially when it hits the ground. So make sure that you are reading an incomplete pass signal correctly. Stop the clock when the play ends out of bounds, and again, rely on those wing officials to give you the stop clock signal to indicate that the ball actually is out of bounds. Stop the clock after a score, whether that's a touchdown or a safety, but anytime an official signals a score, we will stop the clock. Stop the clock after a change of possession, whether that is an interception or a fumble recovery by the other team after a kick, or maybe a turnover on downs. But in all cases, the officials on field should give the stop clock signal. The following circumstances will stop the clock, but watch the referee as he may restart the clock following the ready for play. This may occur after the first down line to gain has been reached in bounds. What will happen is the play will stop, the clock will stop, and as the chains then are reset, then after the ready for play, the referee will give a wind indicating that the clock should restart. At times, after a foul, a yellow flag on the ground, we will stop the clock, but depending upon what the status of the ball was during the play, after the penalty has been enforced, the referee may again wind the clock. And then also for some timeouts, for example, a player injury where the injury itself is the reason for the clock stoppage, and then after the player has been removed from the field and the ball has been set, the referee may give a wind the clock signal indicating that the clock should start up again. Stop the clock when the ball becomes dead out of bounds. In this case, when the player runs out of bounds, takes the ball out of bounds, and the ball becomes dead out of bounds, the calling official should give the stop the clock signal, and the others should follow. Stop the clock for an incomplete pass. When a pass falls incomplete, the clock should stop, and the covering official should give the incomplete signal, and the other officials should mirror a stop the clock signal. Stop the clock on a foul for a dead ball. In this example, we have a dead ball foul, a foul that occurs during that dead ball period. If the clock was running and we see flags and the stop clock signal, we should stop the clock. During a live ball play, if you see a flag at the end of the play, stop the clock, knowing that they are going to enforce some kind of penalty. In this case, you'll see a flag come in during the play. The clock should continue to run until the ball is blown dead. Stop the clock after a change of possession, and that could be a fumble, an interception, any kind of turnover, maybe a turnover on downs. But after a change of possession, in this case we have an interception, we see the back judge and the umpire stopping the clock, indicating that we have a change of possession. Some general clock information, or a summary. If the referee gives the ready for play but does not give the start the clock, do not start the clock. The clock should start on the next legal snap. Watch the referee, the white hat. He will signal if the clock should start after any kind of stoppage. There may or may not always be a whistle during the ready for play, so you will need to watch for both signals to start the clock. The clock does not run during extra point tries. What you should see during an extra point try is the referee will chop or give the ready for play, and then with one hand in the air spin a finger, and that is indicating that this is an untimed down and the clock should not run. The clock does not run during the extension of a period or during an overtime. If there is a foul at the end of the period, there may be some instances where we extend the period for one more play. And during that time frame, please leave the clock at zeros. The clock will stop at the end of a legal kick play and will start on the legal snap. So after any kicking play, the clock will stop at the end of the play when the ball is down by rule. And the clock will stop after a change of possession and then will start on the next legal snap. So after a team turns the ball over and we reset the chains, the referee will give a chop ready for play, but he should not wind the clock, indicating that the clock should start. The clock should start on the snap. Some timing considerations. Know that each quarter in NFHS football is 12 minutes in length. Each team is allotted 3 timeouts per half. If you don't use them all, they don't carry over. You have 3 timeouts per half. So make sure that you reset your timeouts at the end of the half so your clock is ready for the start of the third quarter. Halftime can be anywhere between 10 and 20 minutes, so make sure that the referee communicates to you the duration of halftime. At the end of the second quarter, after the teams exit the field, watch for the referee, the white hat, and he will give a wind signal indicating to start the halftime timer on the predetermined length. Make sure to also reset each team's timeouts to the full allotted amount of 3 each. At the end of the predetermined halftime length, as the clock reaches 0, you will put 3 minutes back on the clock. And this is a 3-minute mandatory warm-up that teams are required to utilize when they return to the field after halftime. But you won't start the 3 minutes until the referee gives a wind and tells you to start that 3-minute period. So when the clock reaches 0 during the halftime period, reset the clock to 3 minutes and wait for the referee to give the wind indicating the 3-minute mandatory warm-up should start. ASAA has elected to apply a mercy rule when during a game there is a point differential of 35 points after the end of the third quarter or any time thereafter. What that means is when you have a point difference of 35 points at the end of the third quarter or any time in the fourth quarter it's reached, we will use a running clock. Once the clock starts, it will only stop for things such as a timeout or a score. When an official wants you to actually stop the clock, they will give a resounding timeout signal and emphasize that they would like you to stop the clock. Make sure to pay attention to the referee or the white hat, because after we come back out of the timeout, the clock will restart on either the snap or possibly the referee's signal. After we stop the clock for a score, the next time the clock will start is when the ball is next kicked during a kickoff. Typically, we will start the clock when the ball is touched by the receiving team, but when we are in the mercy rule, the clock should start when the ball is next kicked. All right, now let's test. Let's see how closely you can time some live action. So what I'd like you to do is pause this video, get your iPhone or your smartphone out, and have a countdown timer set to 12 minutes. Pause this video while you do that, and then when you are ready and you have your phone, hit play again and we will resume. Welcome back, and what I'd like you to do is have your countdown timer on your smartphone set to 12 minutes, and we will use the start and stop button on your smartphone to see how well you match the clock on field. Here we go, get ready. I have left the background audio on so that you can hear whistles and see the live action. Here we have a free kick, a kickoff. And again, we will start when the receiving team legally touches the ball. There's the white hat winding the clock. Your clock should be running. And at the end of a legal kick, at the end of the kick, they should signal that the play is over and the clock should stop. You should be around 11:54-ish right now. The referee is going to back out. He's going to give a ready for play signal, but he will not wind, indicating that the ball should start on the snap. There's the ready for play. And there's the snap. There's a run out to the left side for a short gain. The clock should continue to run, even though now we are in what's called a dead ball period, the time between the live down. So the ball is being set, it is second down, and the clock should still continue to run. There is a completed pass beyond the line to gain a first down, so we are stopping the clock to give us the opportunity to move the chains. The referee signals first down. Now keep an eye, once that ball is set, the referee is going to blow ready for play and give a wind. Your clock should be running. Another run to the right, short of the first down. The clock continues to run. Another completed pass for a first down. Notice that the officials are stopping the clock. The play ended inbounds, but beyond the line of gain, so we stop the clock to move the chains. This is an instance where, again, we watch a white hat, and there is the wind. The clock should restart. Another run that ends inbounds. Now second down. The clock should continue to run. There's a run to the left. And watch, this play ends out of bounds. The officials are stopping the clock, indicating that the play ended out of bounds, but we also have a flag on the play. So we are also, in addition to the play being killed by the runner going out of bounds, have a foul, and we are going to administer the foul. So when you see a flag down, we make sure that we stop the clock, but we also don't adjust anything because we're not quite sure at this point who the foul is on and what direction we're going to move the ball. In this case, the foul is on the offense, so it is going to take them back several yards. After the enforcement of the penalty, because the play ended out of bounds, you watch the referee, the white hat, and he will give a chop or a ready for play, but he will not wind the clock, which means that the clock should start on the snap. And there was the ready for play. Clock starts on the snap. We have a pass out to the right, and he is tackled inbounds, so the clock continues to run. have a foul, an encroachment foul on the defense. So when we have that flag up in the air and the whistle blows killing the play, you should see the stop the clock signal. Here the referee makes an error because the clock was running prior, and what killed the clock was the foul. So the referee really should, after blowing the ready for play, give a wind the clock signal, but since he didn't, started on the snap. It will run up along the right side. It's close to a first down, and we see that it is a first down, so the covering official stops the clock. The referee gives a first down signal, and he should give a wind the clock. There it is, indicating that the clock should start because the play ended inbounds, but for a first down, we stop it, move the chains, and restart. And on this play, we have a touchdown, and the covering official gives the signal 2 hands up, indicating that the clock should stop and the play is over. Now we line up for the extra point or the try. If you keep your eyes on the white hat, the referee, you'll notice that he gives a ready for play signal and then puts his one hand up in the air and gives a spin, a little spin of the fingers, indicating that this is an untimed down. And that kick was no good.